Hi, I am Chaminda Jayasinghe. I am Solicitor and Migration Agent. I am with NEPCOM Services. We are based in Level 4, 276, Pitt Street, Sydney. If you want any clarification or immigration or legal services, please feel free to drop in. We wanted to do this short educational video because we have encountered a number of clients who seem to be unclear about certain particulars about two visa categories: 485 visa, or what is commonly referred in common parlance as the TR visa, and the student visa 500. So I'm going to focus on transitioning between 485 and 500 visa and certain issues that we regularly encounter in dealing with clients who have applied for 485 visa without any migration assistance. Now, first of all, let me talk about students who are in the last stages of their temporary residency of 485 visa and who want to apply for a student visa. If they want to study a different course after the expiry of the 485 visa, we have noticed that there are a number of cases where the Department of Immigration have made an adverse observation that the students have not met the genuine temporary entrant criteria. So we thought we should explain to the students what the Department of Immigration means by genuine temporary entrant criteria, and if you want to study after finishing your 485 visa, what are the areas that you should be concerned about. First of all, once your 485 visa or any other visa expires, and then you have to apply for a student visa or subclass 500 visa category, the Department of Immigration will be closely scrutinizing as to whether you are a genuine student. For that purpose, there is a Ministerial Direction 69 that talks about what we call the genuine temporary entrant. So without going into the real legality and the procedural issues, let me just basically tell you what the department is looking at is whether you are in fact a genuine student, meaning whether you will study in Australia and whether you will go back to your own country. So that is basically what is meant by genuine temporary entrant. So when the department is looking at your application, whether you are in fact a genuine temporary entrant, they basically look at four criteria: your circumstances in Australia, your circumstances in your home country, be it India, Nepal, or Sri Lanka, or any other country, and what is the future or potential use of that study for you, and lastly, about your immigration history. So basically those are the four criteria that they will be looking at. So we encounter a number of cases where students have tried to transition from their 485 visa to student visa, but it has gotten rejected. So usually what happens mostly, the Department of Immigration looks at your immigration past. In a lot of the cases, the students have stayed in Australia for about 7 years continuously and departed to their country for about 29 days. So in that case, the Department of Immigration is very concerned that you have not demonstrated a close affinity or connection to your own country. So they can make an adverse observation about that. And the second issue that they really focus is on the future use of that course. How they do that is that they identify whether you have maintained your AQF level. In simpler terms, for example, if you have studied for your Bachelor of Accountancy, if you have switched over to an advanced certificate or a certificate 2 or certificate 3 course, the department will be very suspicious as to whether you are doing that purely to extend your stay in Australia without really thinking whether that course is really beneficial for your future. In one recent example, we encountered a case of a student who finished his bachelor in accountancy, and if you want to transition and study a diploma of business, you have to be very careful to demonstrate to the Department of Immigration that transition to a lower level course Department of Immigration had observed that it is of a lower level than his previous education qualification that led to his TR, and he has not adequately demonstrated how that course, the second course, is useful for his future. So when you are in fact switching over to a different course in the same field, it is always not advisable to go to a lower level course. And if you are switching over to a completely different line of study, you must explain as to why you are doing that and how that will benefit you in the future. And the other circumstance is when students are coming to extend their student visas. We have observed that in most cases, the Department of Immigration will have reference to the PRISM system, the PRISM system that they have. So they will identify as to whether the student has switched over various institutions, and they might take an adverse view about the student switching from one institution to another. Sometimes the Department of Immigration believe that the students are doing that purely for the reason that they are attempting to extend your stay in Australia. And a second scenario is where the student has displayed insufficient academic progress. So the PRISM system will communicate to the decision maker whether you have made insufficient progress. Sometimes the universities report through the PRISM system that the student has insufficient or unsatisfactory academic progress. So those are the circumstances that you have to be really concerned about. And if you need to, in fact, for the benefit of your future studies or for your future employment, if you need to study a course that is lower than the course that you're currently studying, try to, in your statement of purpose, explain to the decision maker that this is the reason why you wish to do that. And finally, as a last point, I wish to talk about many cases where students have applied on their own for 485 visas where they have been rejected. Now 485, the most common scenarios that we encounter in 485 visa rejections is that it could have been avoided if you had in fact studied the border website or if you had sought immigration assistance. For example, we encounter some cases where students have lodged their 485 visas prior to the completion of their course. Usually the decision makers prefer to look as their first point of reference the letter of completion issued by the education provider. And you have to apply for your 485 visa within 6 months of your completion and not prior to your completion. Secondly, some students apply for the 485 visa without applying for the Australian Federal Police report. Some students have mistaken the AFP report with the New South Wales State or your Queensland State Police report. They are completely different. What you must identify is the Australian Federal Police report. You should have applied for the AFP report and it should accompany your application for the 485 visa. And the other criteria is you should apply, you should have an English test report that accompanies your visa application for 485. And finally, one last issue, I think it is a very silly mistake that some students make. You can't make an application for 485 visa twice. You can only make an application for 485 visa one time. So I believe that I have been able to clarify some of the burning issues and burning concerns that a lot of students have. And if you listen to this video, if you take cognizance of the facts that we are talking about, you might be able to avoid some silly mistakes that a lot of students make when they are submitting their 485 visa application. Thank you very much. If you want to get any further information, you can follow our blog site and our website, which is www.nepcoms.com. and we have a Facebook page. We try to disseminate as much information as possible so that you can be legally compliant within the migration system of Australia. Thank you very much.